So it's been nearly 20 years since Hasbro, Kenner, Tonka really rode that first wave of a resurgence in Star Wars toys popularity in 1995 when they released the Power of the Force 2 figures that really kind of flooded the market and continue to flood the market today. On eBay, anywhere you look and find secondhand toys, you'll see these things in a bargain bin for $2 or $3 a pop. But when they came out 20 years ago in 95, well, it's 2016 now, so 20 years ago, I think a lot of us collectors were super excited to be able to get our hands on the first real new action figures in over, well, just about 10 years. I think Power of the Force, the last figures were produced for the Ewoks and the Droid series in or around 85 or so, but these guys were extremely popular. Today I want to look at Ben, and we'll talk about some of his variations and whatnot. Since this guy's been in my collection for a while, not a collection I display, but he's just kind of been in a storage box. He has come open a little bit, so we're going to take a look at him. We'll open him up and compare him to the original 1977-78 Kenner action figure. Just take a look at this and see where we have come. But tons of variations with these Power of the Force figures, as you probably already know. Foil photos on some of these. Ben Kenobi, for example, there's a variation that says, this one says here, Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi, but there's another one that says Obi-Wan, parentheses, Ben Kenobi. With Luke's figure and Ben's figure, there were variations in the lightsaber length, all sorts of cool stuff for collectors to grab. And I think the reason we don't see these worth anything today is because, well, we just grabbed them up and never opened them, and we kind of flooded the collector's market with them. But let's take a look at Ben here. Let's take a look at him. We'll get him off the card. Take a look at the card a little bit closer. This is from the first line. This is probably a 95 release that we've got here. The Vader imagery, the kind of the reddish orange lightsaber in the background. We take a look at the back. One of the cool things they did is they made these info cards that is reminiscent of the early and mid to late 80s G.I. Joe figures, where you'd have the Joe's file card on the back, talked about their history, what they did, and whatnot. I think we know this tale of Obi-Wan Kenobi here, trained by the Jedi Master Yoda, etc., and so on. But a cool little thing to cut out and collect if you're a kid and want to build your roster. What did we start out with here? We started out with 7 figures in the initial line. I don't know if Leia was in the initial line. I know she came out pretty early in this. Maybe she wasn't, just left off this. Maybe we're seeing a repeat of the absent Rey figures recently with The Force Awakens. We've noticed in a lot of collectors, and, well, not collectors, but just kids that want to play with Rey, noticed that she wasn't in a lot of the stuff, the early Force Awakens toys. Anyway, what we see here are 7 figures, C-3PO, etc., through the Stormtrooper vehicles you could put these guys into. One of the big criticisms that these figures received was the fact that their sculpts look so well buff. I mean, we take a look here at Luke. Let me focus in on Luke. I mean, look at that V shape that he's got there, like a bodybuilder. I mean, they're also overly muscular. If you look at the Lando figure, which I might show a picture of in another review, you'll notice that, I mean, his abs are even sculpted into the stomach of his figure, which makes for an interesting comparison to the real Lando on film. But anyway, we could relive our childhoods now that we all had jobs in the 90s, and we could buy these for ourselves instead of having mom and dad shell out hard-earned bucks. This is still labeled Kenner. I think that changed later with the Power of the Force 2 and 3 lines that came out to Hasbro labeling. But we've seen these everywhere, right? And, well, we kind of don't even notice them anymore. But 20 years ago, these were hot, these were new. Let's take a look at the figure. I gotta say, right off the bat, for the heat that these things take for the sculpt sometimes, they are a little bit, at least I think Ben is much more accurate here to his screen presence as far as color is concerned of the robe, or the robes that he's got on there, kind of that cream white color here and then the dark brown. Much more screen accurate than the original Kenner line. But we'll take him out of the package, set him free after 20 years. See what he's all about. What do we got here? We got the short saber on this one. Pull him out, see if he stands up. Needs a little wiggle. That robe should help him stand up. Actually, his robe's a little bit bent. We'll see if we can get that to help him stand. Stand up, Ben. There we go. Stands well. We'll take out the saber. Yes, yeah, so, talking about so many variations. This is the short saber version of Kenobi, but there was a long saber. There was also a long saber Luke. A couple of long saber and short saber Lukes. There was a Dagobah Luke with the long saber and the short saber. This is kind of cool. This is a vinyl or a thicker plastic or vinyl cape that you can pull off here. Again, much more accurate in terms of Ben's costume in A New Hope. They even got the sculpt here of the hood that's down. Looks like he could throw that up over his head. We'll take a look at the face. Here, point that somewhere else. You're going to get somebody killed here. We'll take that out of your hands. We'll focus in on Ben's face. I'll put it in focus here. There we go. Not a bad likeness. I mean, not the greatest. But definitely a good sculpt, I think. Good detail in the beard, good detail in the hair. This isn't the greatest picture of Ben from the films, or Alec Guinness, I should say, from the film. But, it's not bad. It's not bad. Now, when we compare him to this guy, right, from about 18 years before, we see major differences, right? The original 77 Kenobi here, as we all know, again, not that screen accurate, but a pretty good sculpt on the head. We'll get him a little closer, focus you up, get in there, right? Not bad, not bad. The cool vinyl cape here. I mean, the robe color is totally off. I mean, that's not anything like we saw in the film. We have the telescoping saber, right, and those points that always frustrated us collectors by snapping off. If you can find one with that very thin tip that's still attached, boys, snatch it up. You'll be in rare company holding that. But still, when we compare these two, right, there's big differences here. But these were still fun to play with when they came out, like I said, about 20 years ago, and you could relive those childhood memories and buy as many as you want without having to beg Mom or Dad again. I plan on doing more of these reviews as I have more of these Power of the Force 2 from the 90s to open up. I got some expanded universe guys. I got some of the original line we'll take a look at. If there's any you want to see in particular, leave me a comment and I'll see if I've got them in my collection. But I think we should spend a little bit more time looking at these, and especially some of the expanded universe figures, since the expanded universe has been, I guess, kind of wiped out or ignored now that The Force Awakens has come down, has been released, I should say, and done away with all the expanded universe stuff. Dash Rendar and Shizor, Chewbacca in a bounty hunter disguise are just a few of those that are around and probably worth taking a look at. But I figured 20 years on, we should take a look at this line and see what's happening. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Stay tuned for some other videos. We're going to get away from Star Wars soon, start looking at some classic video games, handheld games, console stuff. And you can check me out on other social media sites in the description below and follow and subscribe. Thanks, guys.